Hello and welcome to this very special episode of The Good, The Bad and The Arty. Special because Tab and I are recording live from the Mal Galleries in London, our first ever live podcast event, where we are interviewing Kelvin Okafor in front of a live audience as part of the Beyond the Prize series of events that are happening at the Mal Galleries in London currently.
And it was very special for me because Beyond the Prize was an exhibition that I had curated, and the Mal Galleries is also one of the exhibitions that started off Kelvin's career. Now, Kelvin is an artist who uses a pencil to create hyper-real portraits, so accurate that they look like photographs. And he's now started drawing awareness to people who have visible skin conditions, including celebrities like Winnie Harlow, the model who has vitiligo.
We knew immediately that Kelvin was going to be a fantastic interview. He's so down to earth. He's absolutely everywhere at the moment as well. Definitely have a little Google and find out where his next exhibition is if you would like to see his work in person. You won't struggle to find him showing, especially in London at the moment. We hope you enjoy this live episode, and we would like to invite you to follow the podcast and give us a 5-star review. Enjoy our live interview at the Mal Galleries with Kelvin Okafor. Hello everybody. Hello and welcome to the Mal Galleries. I'm sure many of you have probably been here before. If you have listened to the podcast, which I'm hoping you have, but many of you may not have, it is called The Good, The Bad and The Arty. So welcome to our first live recording of the podcast. The podcast is about artists. We speak to artists and creatives about the good and the bad of what they do, and also, of course, the arty, and you can thank Tab for that name, the pun name. But we try and make the art world a bit more accessible, so that is our job today. My name is Anna Gammans, and I'm an artist and broadcaster.
And my name is Tabish Khan, and I'm an art critic, writer, speaker, and I suppose now a curator, because I've curated this show that you see around you, and hope you had a chance to see it before the show, before the podcast, and there will be time to have a look around the exhibition afterwards if you haven't. And of course the works are for sale, so if you are feeling like your wallet's feeling a bit heavy at the moment, then feel free to make a purchase. I will apologise in advance that I'm slowly losing my voice, so I'm kind of hoping it lasts until the end of the evening. And if it doesn't, then Anna and Kelvin will just take over and run with it, and I'll just sit here looking pretty. Welcome everyone, and we're just going to start by asking Kelvin to tell us a little bit about his journey, how he became the artist that he is today, and then we'll ask some more questions about his practice, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me. I really, really appreciate this honor to be able to share this very, very crazy, surreal journey, which I still need to pinch myself to know that this is actually really real, honestly, and a pleasure to meet you all as well. Hopefully what I share today could, I guess, enlighten you, those of you who are aspiring artists, hopefully provide a little bit of a blueprint of how to navigate through this crazy world that we live in. And yeah, just to be able to share as openly as possible. I want to know, are they going to be able to ask Q&As as well? I'm happy to answer questions that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to have a Q&A at the end. So we're going to ask you some questions, talk about your work, and then if anyone has anything that they would like to know, ask all three of us, one of us, all of us, however many you like. So maybe think of some questions while we're having a chat, and then definitely some audience participation at the end.
Lovely. So I guess you want to know how I kind of started this journey? Okay, so 2012 was the first time that I entered open exhibitions across the UK. The Mal Galleries was one of the first. It was a Fred Needle Prize, and it was in that room over there. And it was a very bold decision for me to enter the exhibition because I had just graduated. In 2009, I spent the next 2 to 3 years building my body of work, and I had, I guess, no credentials. There was nothing really about me. There was no CV other than I went to Sitting Gills Art School at Middlesex University. There was no accolades, no awards, no nothing at all. But I knew that with open exhibitions, you have to have somewhat of a bit of a CV to enter them to be acknowledged. I was just pretty much leaning on, hopefully, the strength of my artwork. So I entered the Columbia Thread Needle Prize. I had a drawing of Heath Ledger who played the Joker in Batman. He was one of my favorites. I drew him, I entered the exhibition, I got accepted. I was the youngest artist in the show, and for me that just opened my mind, it opened just everything that I kind of visualized myself as an artist, it just expanded. I was like, okay, wow, I could build a body of work, show them in exhibitions, and have the public engage, interact, and hopefully purchase them. Really? So it kind of just awakened me to the idea of exhibiting my work in open exhibitions. I didn't really I had no idea about how the art world worked. I didn't know, because throughout my whole university experience, it was like, yes, we were learning about the history of art. We learned about a couple of living contemporary artists and their practices and what they do, how they got established. But there wasn't really much of a blueprint of how artists could potentially build themselves in the art world. I just came out of university knowing that I love to draw and I want to enter exhibitions. So I entered the Thread Needle Prize, got accepted. I had lots of wonderful, lovely praises about the work, and it just inspired me to continue building the body of work. So from the Thread Needle Prize, this was 2012, September 2012, I entered it, I got accepted. A couple of months after that, I entered another exhibition, the Vibe Gallery. I won an award, my first award. No, the National Open Art Competition in Chichester. I won an award there, and that was just like, whoa, okay.
That was your first exhibition? You won an award?
Yes.
That's quite extraordinary. I don't know of another time I've heard that. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Retrospectively.
Oh yeah. It's, this whole journey for me though is quite unorthodox in a sense of there wasn't really, I was just pretty much sharing because I wanted to share the work. There wasn't really much of a plan and strategy. I just knew that I love drawing. I wanted to share the body of work. Because after the Thread Needle Prize, it just inspired me to want to share it more in open exhibitions and just connect with the audience. And that's what happened. And then, long story short, it was 5 months after. So from September, December to January, this hairy face just ended up on the BBC.
We love the BBC.
They covered the story, and it just catapulted me into the art world. So overnight, I just became an artist in the arts of society. I'm really cutting a long story short here. There was a lot in between, but just giving you the nutshell of from entering this exhibition and an open exhibition, it just led me to winning awards, getting recognized, interviewed by the CNN, the BBC, and then being catapulted into the art world. And I signed with a gallery called Albemarle Gallery. It was in Mayfair. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this what normally happens? I graduated, had a couple of exhibitions, and then all of a sudden I'm in a Mayfair gallery. Is that how it normally works? But I just went along with it, and it just is what it happened to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I was going to say, but the journey started much earlier from when you picked up a pencil as a child, right? And I think it's something that we can all identify with because it's probably the first artistic implement that any one of us ever touches is probably like an HB pencil, isn't it, as a child? So it'd be great to know how that started before your degree and led you to where we are today.
Absolutely. I just went straight into the deep end there.
I should also probably just clarify as well, we haven't even said, we should have on the beginning, but you are a hyper-realist drawer, essentially, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that, this is an example of Kelvin's work, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it is in fact a photograph. It is not a photograph. Many of your works are so realistic, they do look like photographs. I hope you see that as a compliment, as I intend it to be. But yes, so that is predominantly, that's what you do. So yeah, back to Tab's question, you were 8 years old, I think.
That's correct, yeah. So I was 8 years old where I just had this obsession with drawing. I didn't know what it was. My parents were just like, oh my God, this boy, he's supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. What is that? What? They couldn't really understand it, but I just had an obsession for drawing with pencils. And I was 15 when I realized I had a skill or a talent to draw. And that was purely based on being graded quite highly in school. My secondary school teacher would normally pull out my work in class and just show the class as an example of a skill level to attain to. And I just thought that we could all draw like that. But I didn't realize from the age of 8 to 15, I was drawing every single day after school, 4 hours minimum. So by the time I was 15, I hit the 10,000 hour thing.
Wow.
So have you guys heard of 10,000 hour theory?
The expert at 15, that's
Mastery.
quite impressive. Only Beckham, I think, probably got that.
Yeah, so at 15, I guess I had 10,000 hours of just labor. And it was, I guess, so you mentioned the nature of the work, or the aesthetic, is called hyperrealism. I don't really like to call it that, because it just kind of puts you in a box, but the nature is hyperrealism. And I didn't know what that was growing up. I just knew that I loved to draw in a very lifelike, detailed way. But from, I guess, the labor, for me, my talent was being able to draw freehand and seeing tonal values. So all of the works that I do is all freehand. I think that was a talent, but the skill was to be able to have it come across in a very lifelike, detailed way. So at 15, I had this skill set, I had this love and obsession with drawing. I still didn't know about what it was that I wanted to be. I just knew that I loved to draw. My parents knew what they wanted me to be. It was more of the academia, which I could understand, but I just could not get away from drawing with pencils. So yes, it was age of 8, I found that love, and 15 I realized that I had a talent or a skill.
I think my parents still want me to be a doctor. My brother's there and he can confirm that.
Okay, so I would like to know, and I'm sure everybody else would like to know, I feel like you probably get asked this all the time. I'm coming to you and saying, I want you to draw me, or, let's say I was someone famous. I know you do celebrity portraits as well. How does that process start for you? What does it look like? And I suppose I also want to ask the very stereotypical, how long does it take? But that's quite an annoying question, I think. But yeah, what is your process, I suppose, from start to finish?
So on average, I'm happy to answer that, no problem. On average, it takes about 500 to 800 hours now. But back then, each drawing was, from the age of 15 to about 24, it was between the 50 to 100 hour mark I would spend on a drawing. Now, because it's a lot larger in scale, it's a lot more time sensitive. So the process for me is, I guess, having an online presence now. People discover me on there and they just inquire. They send through an email or they send through a message on social media about potentially having a drawing done. My admin assistant sends it through to me, Kelvin, would you be interested in this? I'm interested in everything, but just letting me know what is an opportunity that's on the table. And yeah, so I would normally, it's important for me to meet the person I'm about to draw. Yes, I could work from photographs, but nothing beats having a physical human, all the sensory factors, being able to experience that person. So the celebrities that I have met along the way, I know they do come across they dehumanize. People think, are they even really real? But they are just like us. But they have to have that persona. So meeting, and that's what's important for me when I'm drawing a famous person, is to meet them so I could see past the media training and to see who they are, the nature of the person.
Do you have a criteria for, is there anybody that you wouldn't draw? And why?
Do you know what? Honestly, there isn't anyone that I wouldn't draw. Only because, yes, on the surface, there are a few people that would be like, no, I wouldn't. I don't believe in their values. Nope.
Okay.
But I guess as an artist or just as a human being, the way people, especially famous faces or celebrity public figures, their story, their lives are broadcasted on the media. I don't know who they are personally. Yeah. So for me as an artist, it's important to strip away the ego, strip away what I think I know about the person, and then hopefully have an experience with them in person where I can make that judgment. So I know that, yes, someone could come across as a villain in real life, but I think meeting the person and then just having an experience, I'm able to kind of make the judgment call then.
Yeah, and how do you see past that? So obviously, I know you've painted quite famous people, someone like Seal, for example. If I met Seal, all I'd have in my head is all of his music. And it'd be really hard for me to see not the real man, but the man I've created in my head. So how do you actually, is there a technique for getting around that? And is that make it different for drawing those people versus, say, an anonymous model?
Well, I think we're all genuinely, I just see everyone the same. I guess I'm at a place where I can do that now. Before 2013, some of the public figures that I drew, I had never met like a famous person back then. So I guess I had how everyone would have the whole starstruck or the perception of this entity of a person that's godly, when really and truly, strip that away, they're just like us. They have the vulnerabilities, they have their flaws. So I guess the breath, I always go into breathing whenever I meet whoever. I remember where I am in the present moment, and everyone has this heartbeat, everyone has this breath that's going in and out through them. So I strip away the title, the persona, and I just see this person for a human being. So I guess it takes some time because you have to kind of immerse yourself pretty much consistently in that nature, in that territory, to be able to normalize it. Because they asked, like, so Seal, for example, Seal is what's a good word to use? He's mysterious, you know, and for me, I do have quite a good eye for kind of seeing through people, body language, facial expressions, but with him, you know, he has a mystery. So when I drew him, it was like, I got to see through that, you know, from just, there was the music, then there was meeting him, and then there was just experiencing the nature of who he is as a human being, beyond the music, where I could, because Kiss from a Rose, that was my favorite song growing up. Yeah, that was the soundtrack of my youth. Kiss from a Rose. I still don't know what the song means, to be honest.
Kelvin would like to sing our rendition for you now.
But it's nice to just, I guess, strip away as human beings. Even this audience here today, you know, you're looking at me speak, you're like, oh, this guy's very hairy, isn't he? But stripping away what you think you know about someone and just being in the present moment, things just awaken, you know.
So I'm hearing a lot that you really need to connect with your subject. And I'm wondering how, once you've connected, how does that translate into your drawings? And also, does the monochrome help with that as well? Because, you know, I know you do coloured drawings as well, but a lot of body of works that I've seen have been in black and white. So I'd like to know how your technique informs that connection and how you get someone's personality across.
So with the black and white, I see colour in black and white. So what actually inspired me to delve into drawing in this medium is, at the age of 8, I was fascinated with the fact that with just single shades of lead, I can create different tones and textures and almost create an illusion of colour through the tonal values. So I had an obsession with trying to get someone's complexion right, where I could see the colour in that tone, you know, and that was my obsession. So the black and white for me just had a timeless feel, you know, and it kind of made the process or the idea of having someone immortalized more real for me. You know, there's just something about black and white that just makes it, the aesthetic just makes it timeless. You don't know what period of time it was in, you know, based on the expression, just based on a tone of value.
And then how do you convey a personality using those techniques, using black and white and just a pen? I say just a pencil, but what you can do with a pencil is quite extraordinary, so but with a pencil.
So I don't want to sound too airy-fairy woo-woo here right now.
You're an artist, you're totally allowed to.
But there is something that happens when, I guess, those of you who are artists here would hear the term entering the zone, going into the zone. And when you are in that zone, the mind kind of subsides and it's just the present moment. It's hard to process it, because when you realize that you're in the zone, you're no longer in the zone because the mind is trying to understand what's happening. But something happens when you're just in the zone. So to answer that question, like when I'm in the zone and I'm connecting with the person that I'm drawing. So before putting pencil to paper, I've spent, if I haven't met the person and I've just been given a photograph or video imagery to study from, I would spend a couple of weeks just analysing, obsessing over those imagery to the point where I'm having dreams of that being. So the tone of their voice, the body languages, different facial expressions, how their pupils dilate when they say certain things, that is just completely immersing myself in a tangibleness of them. But when I'm in the zone, when it's time to put pen to the paper, something happens, and I just hate to sound too woo-woo, but it's like I'm kind of guided to discover who that person is. I connect with the person, I conversate with the person whilst drawing, and it becomes a very spiritual experience for me. Where I'm able to grasp the person's, I guess, who they are. Oh, I guess sometimes the mind can interfere and start asking probing questions. Like when I was drawing Seal, it was like, I'm asking him, like, what were those scars really about? The lupus, how was that? How did that happen? What did it feel like? When you lost your hair, what was that process like for you? So being able to speak and communicate with the drawing whilst I'm drawing, just heightens the experience of understanding the nature of the person. Hopefully that didn't sound too woo-woo.
No, it sounds
I think we all
amazing.
followed.
Yeah.
I hope I'll speak for everyone.
It sounds quite intense for you and the sitter. And I suppose it'd be good to understand some of these stories about the people who've sat for you. So obviously there is one on display, and you've done a whole series where you've focused on people with, I suppose we could skin conditions, so things like
Drawing
facial scarring.
awareness, I think the name. Drawing awareness.
Drawing awareness, yeah.
That's sure.
So it'd be great to understand a few of those stories for people. If you could just paint a picture of a few of those works, how did that come about? How did you approach them? And what made you follow this path into looking into people's differences in skin?
Oh yeah, thank you for that question. So end of 2019, 2020, I was, I guess, just about to post something on social media on Instagram. And whilst I was on there, I just received a floodload of messages. My sisters messaged me, I was getting messages on social media, Kelvin, this person's following you, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I looked to see what the notifications were about, and it was a model called Winnie Harlow, a supermodel. She has vitiligo. And I had seen her story when she was on America's Next Top Model, and how she had a YouTube channel before that, and her journey, so I knew who she was, and I admired her. So when I saw that she followed and she was loving the work, I kind of slid into the DM, in a respectful way. I just thanked her and thanked her for following the body of work, and just told her how much I admired her and what she does, and I hope to connect. She messaged me back straight away, and we just communicated. And I told her, I need to draw you, I have to draw you. So I ended up drawing her in 2020, 2 weeks just before the lockdown that we were in. I don't know what the hell that whole thing was about, the lockdown. But just 2 weeks before the lockdown, we had an unveiling for her. We unveiled it, and it just blew up, So she shared it on her social media channel, and I had a huge influx of that American audience, especially the fashion industry, and it just took over. But drawing her, the reason why I truly wanted to draw her beyond the aesthetics was the fact that in that modeling industry, when the fashion world has a very harsh, a very structured way, the way they see beauty, there's a beauty standard, and how she was, I guess, able to come into that industry with her, quote unquote, a lack of a better word, of a disability or a flaw that people could see, was actually a huge blessing, was actually a beautiful thing.
It was a revolution, I remember at the time. People were like, oh my gosh, have you seen this model? And I think I mentioned to you before, my mum has vitiligo, and so it was amazing to be able to see somebody being represented, although I have to say, I sort of, having grown up with it, I lost sort of the ability to notice it, I think. But it was very poignant at the time, I remember.
Absolutely, it changed the game, really. She was able to make space and create space for people who had a visible difference, So whilst drawing her, I was like, wow, this is actually beyond, yes, it's lovely to receive. You know, she was happy, she cried when she received it. It was a very heartwarming experience. And in social media, there was a lot of love and a positive response. But I was like, there's something bigger here. I started to look back in time, and growing up, when I used to look at artworks, I'm like, I've never really seen one of the greats capture someone with a visible difference, something like a skin condition. So I was like, I want to create a body of work, you know, highlighting people that have, I guess, a skin condition or a visible difference. And that's how that body of work came to be.
I think you mentioned on your website it's almost a bit of a social mission for you to be able to present people who are not represented. And I think this brings us really nicely on to maybe talking a little bit more about the piece in front of it. And seeing as this is an audio platform, there is how big is the drawing?
So
if we were going to describe it to somebody,
it's 70 by 69 centimeters. So it's like an A1 size drawing. And it's a drawing of one of my models called Shimbi, a Vulnerable Queen. She has albinism, and her condition is quite rare because with albinism, it's a complete lack of melanin, to the point where, you know, in the hair and the eyes and the skin. But hers is quite unique in the sense where she has freckles, so there's some melanin there. And whilst drawing her, I guess I'm now 39, I was 37, 38 when I drew her. I was 37 years old when I realized we weren't born with freckles. Freckles actually develops from the sun, so from around the age of 4, from exposure to sunlight, you develop freckles. I didn't even know that, but it was just, I was completely in awe of her freckles, you know, because it's an excessive amount, but it's a beautiful amount. And it just looked really, really beautiful. So she's I haven't met her physically, so I discovered her online. One photographer that I follow, he had a body of work where a Nigerian photographer had a body of work, Ibuka, and he was highlighting this model with albinism from Nigeria, where I'm from, and I was like, whoa, I need to connect. So I reached out to him, I asked for his permission, I paid him, and he was surprised with that because I guess people normally just ask or just use it without. But I think it's important to give credit and support. Reached out, I wanted to know a bit more about the model, so he gave me her details. I reached out to her, we had a Zoom call, and it was just, because for me, yes, I can work from a photograph, but in order to capture the person's essence, I need some visual, I need, I guess, a countless amount where I can see different circumference of their body, their head, just everything. I need to feel the person if I can't physically feel them. So we had a Zoom call, she done a video interview for me and gave me different pictures from the back, the side and the front of her face. So I was able to really truly absorb her, and I had her voice as well. So I had the whole experience there. So from drawing her, this drawing was, I believe, between 880 to like 910 hours around that time. Wow. But it was complete labor of love. Complete labor of love.
gosh.
I mean, it sounds like a long time, but when you're doing something
when you're in the zone, you mentioned being in the zone. The flow, the zone, the flow, whatever you want to call it, it's real, man.
Oh yeah, like a minute is really an hour.
Yeah.
There's I'm gonna sound real old school right now. Dragon Ball Z. Have any of you guys seen Dragon Ball Z? So there's an anime cartoon called Dragon Ball Z.
I think my husband just put his hand up.
That's my man. So
no idea what it is.
In Dragon Ball Z, there's this thing that they call a hyperbolic time chamber. So when you go into this time chamber, 1 minute in the real world is like 10 years or a year over there. And that's what it genuinely feels like when you're in the zone. You're just in the moment, and because the mind isn't keeping track of time. You know, you don't even realize that you're breathing. You know, it's just you're in the moment and time is just flowing. So yeah, it's...
Yeah, it feels like you'll only notice because your magnificent beard's got even longer. I feel like
That's the third comment I've heard Tab make about your beard.
I mean, I'm
just to
I'm
expose you
I'm
completely,
jealous.
Tab.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Is there anyone that you haven't drawn that you would love to?
You.
Yeah? There you go. I have to grow a beard for it. 'Cause I was thinking that you've drawn Beyonce. It doesn't get bigger than that, does it?
I mean, she's incredible, you know, she's incredible. Meeting her as well, just completely incredible. But it's, like I said in the beginning, the celebrities, once you get past the ego, and I mean, once you get past your ego of viewing them a certain way, and just see that this is just a human being that's been able to, I guess, propel themselves and utilize their gifts and talents that puts them on that kind of sphere, they're just like you and I. So for me, it really genuinely, my desire to draw someone really stems from where I am in the moment. So I'm feeling quite jovial right now. So if I saw one of you smiling really abundantly, right, it makes it like, Elizabeth, right? See, I would want to draw her because I'm just in that moment. So I guess I'm very much in my emotion. So however I feel, that's kind of how I want to, or what I want to kind of capture.
I love how you speak about emotion, because your drawings are so technically excellent, but to talk about emotion as well with the excellence, I think that's quite rare. So it's really lovely to hear you speak about the two and marry the two. I would love to know, I mean, you've spoken about so many different media outlets that you've spoken to and interviews you've done, and I know you've got some really exciting things coming up. What is your proudest moment as an artist?
Oh,
Big question.
That is a big question. Honestly, I'm proud of this moment right now because it's, so like I said in the beginning, in that space over there, just in the other room, it was a Threadneedle Prize, and that was one of the first moments of having my works in an open exhibition and having an audience engage with the work, asking me questions. You know, it was a lot for me, but I'm grateful to say there's been so many amazing moments that just completely blows my mind, where I'm like, well, hold on, it's this thing that I loved at age of 8, I had no intentions of making money from it, it was just pure labor of love, puts me in a position where I'm in today, 39, doing what I love and I can get paid from it, you know, and to be recognized, it's unreal. But I think what I'm really proud of is, so in 2013, it was, I made a vow after that BBC thing and I had a bit of exposure and a bit of money in the pocket, I wanted to go into schools. So since 2013, I've visited over 200 schools in the UK, where I give workshops and talks. Because growing up in school, primary and secondary, there was absolutely no blueprint or trajectory of how to become an artist. There was nothing there. And there was also no artist that I saw growing up that drew portraits that I could, I guess in the nature that I drew it. So it was a very lonely, scary place. And then also at home, the family, what they kind of expected for me to become, or what they wanted for me, having to go against that, and society, it was quite difficult being able to just focus and hone into this thing that you love. So going into schools, talking to the children, hopefully planting that seed within each child of just that thing that you love to do, work on it, utilize it, protect it, and share it. And then seeing that they go on to utilizing it, that's probably the proudest moment for me, going into schools.
Very humble
That
as
is
well,
beautiful.
very humble.
Thank you.
I was also going to ask, how do the children react to your artwork? And also, a personal question, how does your family feel about you now?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's such a good question. Do they eat their words?
I'll come to the children after, but the parents, I mean, it's all love, you know. They came to this country in the 70s and the 80s, had myself, my two older sisters who are twins, and my younger brother born here. They, you know, coming from Nigeria, they kind of come to this country, they felt and they thought it was going to be an academic route that would sustain their children financially. But whilst, you know, the 70s to 80s to 90s, we're moving from the industrial age into the information age, where technology has just become the crazy thing that it is right now. So I couldn't blame them for what they wanted. But now, so 2013, after the BBC, after I was on BBC, in Manchester, I came back home. I was just exhausted because I was just I didn't sleep the night before. I was just over the moon. went to my bedroom, well, hugged the parents, I greeted them as you have to. Went to my room and I just like was crying. My dad, like 5 minutes after, my dad knocked on the door, which he never does. The dude would just come straight through the door, knocked on the door.
You got some respect.
Oh man. But the crazy what happened that surprised, what shocked me was he knocked on the door, opened the door, he had a tray of food. He's like, son, are you hungry? I'm like, Dad, really? Like, you know, so it was to have, I guess, to have him, because he was proud, you know, and I could see that it was, they were just worried about their children being able to, you know, they wanted their children to be successful and just worried about how they're going to navigate this world because they're coming into a country that they've never been to before. You know, it's completely new to them, you know, so I completely understood it. But in that moment, my dad was just, I was like, whoa, Dad, really? There was bananas, there was plantain, there was pounded yam, there was all sorts. I was like, okay, this is pretty special. So yeah, now they're my number one cheerleaders. Great. And then the children, so you're asking about the children, how did they react to the art?
Well, because a lot of the children that you're speaking to will, like you say, won't know that an artist is a profession.
Yes. Yeah. So the first thing they do is it's the beard. It's always like, oh, the beard. Can I touch the
So like tab then.
First thing. And I had long hair. I cut the hair at the start of the year, so they would want me to get the hair out of the bun and like just see it. So it was more just looking at me, this hairy man. But when they get past it, it's a drawing, and it's like, gosh, it's a photograph. How long did that take? You know, can you teach us? I want to learn how to do it. There's just this level of just the enthusiasm that the children have, which I feel very grateful for because we're in a day and age right now where children are just on their phones. They got the tech neck, everyone is down looking at their phones and it's, you know, not really observing and creating with the tangible world around them. So to see that there's still that love for a very old traditional way of creating art, it's everything for me. It's everything. That enthusiasm that they have.
Yeah, and I suppose that's how you get greater diversity in the arts as well, when people who wouldn't normally be taught it are learning about it, right?
Exactly. And the crazy part of this whole thing with the schools is, I think since 2017, I was in the children's curriculum. So now I'm in children's curriculum in schools, which is crazy to me because I still see myself as that 8-year-old student. I'm still a student of life, but I still see myself as that young student just falling in love with a pencil and just still trying to just, you know, embrace this love that I have for drawing. So to know that these children are learning about me in schools it's mind-boggling, actually.
Amazing.
I would love to know why you think your work resonates with so many people.
Well, I guess I specialize in drawing portraits of people. You know, we connect as people. I think I would like to believe those of you who are spiritually inclined. It's more to do with the intangible. So when I draw, it's not just pencil and paper. There's a lot of heart, soul, and spirit that goes into it. And I think people can feel that. So yes, they can see a drawing looks lifelike, but why does it look lifelike? Then they go into, it's very detailed, but then they also start to say that they feel something that they can't exactly touch, that's not tangible. So I think it's the intention behind why I create the drawings, it's felt through in the end product. I think that's probably what people are connecting with, that they can't necessarily explain why they feel drawn to it.
Yeah. Is it time for our final question?
Yeah, almost. I have one more question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Excuse me. I would like to know what you see for yourself in the next 5-10 years. What are your goals? Because you've achieved so much, so fast. I mean, I know the sky's the limit, but where do you want to go?
Honestly speaking, I genuinely feel like when it comes to those goals, because I'm all about the goal setting thing, goal setting is very, very important. And if I may, I would like to share something that I did in 2012 that I can see one of my very dear friends in the audience right now, Lex, very, very dear friend. He knows this story of in 2012, because right now it just sounds like the story was 8 years old, 15 I realised I had a skill and talent. I went to university, graduated 2009, BBC, happily ever after. No, far from that. There was a lot of peaks and valleys, definitely a lot of valleys, a lot of hardship. There was something that I did do in 2012, which I would truly like to believe was what enabled me to have the quote-unquote successes I did have. You know, can I share what it is? What I did?
Please.
Please, we all really want to know. And can we do the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone can do it. Absolutely anyone can do it. So, any of you, I guess, you must have heard about law of attraction, right? What you think you attract. You guys are familiar with that? Those of you in the audience watching on camera, I'm sure they are. So, 21, I finished. My whole schooling experience was a Catholicism in my primary, secondary school. 21, I was in art school. That was the first time I was in a world where I was outside of the way I saw the world in Catholicism, you know, which I, was very devout with it. But then when I went to Sitting Gills Art School, I was in a place where people had different belief systems, and in the moment, initially, I was like, wow, it's, because I was really devout with the faith. So I was like, I was so ignorant. I was 21, but I was like really ignorant that there's other belief systems out there, and it was like, I never really took the time to understand what they were. But in Sitting Guilds, that art school, with the people that I kind of connected with there, it was amazing for me to know that they had different belief systems, religious-based, science-based, astrology, numerology. And I ended up just taking a deep breath, taking that moment in to process where I am and kind of how I wanted to move forward. And I wanted to move forward in a more expansive way. So I ended up picking up the Torah, the Quran, the Bible. I read all the religious texts. I went into numerology, astrology. I went into Eastern and Western. I went into the great thinkers of our time, the Aristotle, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Einstein, Isaac Newton. I was looking at all of these great thinkers, all of these inventors, and I was just studying them and studying all of it, and came to find that there's this one thing that people talk about, but they can't express or they can't describe it in a tangible form. It's this intangible thing. People call it energy, people call it God, people call it universe, Allah. There's all these different kind of names to it, but there's this intangible thing, which people can relate to the mind, that was completely inspired me. So from 21, I became very deeply immersed in a realm, the spiritual realm, just looking at things beyond the tangible, looking at things beyond logic. So I started to look very much into the way that I was thinking, and I saw that the more that I opened my mind, the more that the world was able to give to me. The more that whatever I was thinking and feeling, I noticed I was attracting these things into my world. So the kind of people that I would meet, the girlfriends that I had at the time, it's all a reflection of where I was in that present state, mentally, emotionally. But 2012, I was at a place where I was in a relationship. It was a heartbreaking relationship, unfortunately. I was in a space where I had graduated in 2009. I spent the next 2 to 3 years building a body of work, and I was just the quote struggling artist. I was in a space where I didn't really have much. I didn't know where this was going. I just knew that I loved to draw. I didn't have any goals. I didn't know what I was drawing towards. I just knew that I loved to draw. In 2009, when I graduated, the year after, I'm all over the place here, but I'm going to make sense, I promise. 2009, I graduated. End of that year, my friends were like, Kelvin, get onto Facebook. It's this new website. You can connect with old friends. I did that. Went onto Facebook, connected with my old friends from primary school, and it was amazing to reconnect. I ended up just sharing my artworks on this platform, and then my friends were like, "Oh wow, Kelvin, you're still drawing. They look amazing." Da 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 da. And that was also my first time using the internet, really. So from Facebook, I was browsing the internet, and I saw that there were art websites specifically designed for artists, like art communities, art hubs. So I was going on these websites of like Redbubble, DeviantArt, all these different websites, and I entered my work on there. It was a nice little community happening. So from sharing my artworks on these websites, because there was nothing about me, there was no accolades, there was just nothing other than I went to Middlesex University and City and Guilds Art School. So I was on these websites, I was sharing my artworks, and this is 2010 now. So it was from March 2010 to September. Within that time, it was like I was gathering a small following. People were just, and because it's all around the world, so I'm connected to people from all around the world, it was very positive. It was like, oh, amazing, I'm inspired, da 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 da. And my ego was expanding. September 2010, I got the humbling. You mentioned the word humble. This is probably where it came from. I got really, really humbled, but not in a graceful, kind way. So there's a website I was on, it was DeviantArt, and at first it was incredible because it was an amazing website where all these artists from around the world are sharing their works on there. I was there, I was sharing my works, and it was gathering momentum quite quickly. But in that September period, I was there for 2 months. I got a message one day, it was a direct message, open inbox, and it was, "Read this, you fake," and then curse words. I was like, ooh, my stomach dropped because I've never received any kind of negative, and my ego was, as humble as I like to believe I was back then, my ego was, I was loving the validation from, amazing, amazing, great, amazing, masterpiece, genius. I was loving that stuff,
Who doesn't?
So,
Yeah, who doesn't?
I mean, I would like to believe I was humble then, but no, really and truly, it was like, there was a dopamine thing. I used to love the validation from sharing my works on there. So I opened this link, and it was a blog about why Kelvin Okafor's art is fake. I was like, whoa. At first, it felt like a compliment, because people were like, it's too real, it's just too real, like a photograph. I tried to explain myself on there. It was just, I was getting nothing at all. So, yes, it felt like a compliment, the fact they couldn't believe it, but then it got very, very dark very quickly. It got very racial. I was bullied on there. I was slandered. I tried to make a complaint to the actual administration on the website. They didn't know who I was, and I didn't really get much feedback or much help from them. So I was like, and at that period of time, no one was doing work in progress videos. There was no work in progress. Like, YouTube was a new thing as well back then. So I had no idea of how I could prove that my works were genuine. So I took 3 months away from social media. This is now the end of 2010 in December. I ended up buying a tripod. I got myself a little digital camera, Nikon camera, and I recorded myself drawing. And from that process, entering on YouTube, I'm one of the first pencil artists to have time-lapse videos of drawing. So put my work on there. I tried to prove myself. They were like, no, it's a fake hairy hand, it's not real.
Oh, haters gonna hate. Are these still on YouTube?
No, yeah.
The originals?
Yes, the original. One of them is on there. It was like, I was like, oh gosh, I can't win. But then I also made a vow to myself to never internalize compliments or negativity. I could see it for what it is, appreciate it, but just continue to share the works. So 2011, I drew over 60 to 70 drawings, each averaging about 100 to 200 hours, and documented the whole work in progress of each drawing, which I call Stage of Evolution. So by the time it was 2012, I had a large body of work that I could exhibit in open exhibitions, and I also had a huge body of, a huge documentation of the work in progress. Yeah. So that's where I entered the Fred Noodle Prize in September. But then yes, I had, so at that period of time, 2 years later, there was a couple of people that were like, oh, do you know what, I was one of the people who criticized you, but I can see that your works are genuine. So people were slowly coming back, or slowly seeing that my works were genuine, but there was still a lot of negativity, where you can type my name into a Google search, and it was like, Kelvin Okafor, fake, fraudster, Nigerian scam artist. It was just, I was like, whoa, I could not win. But that 2012, September 12, 2012, I was in a Fred Noodle Prize. I had a dream the night before of acquiring £100,000. Bear in mind, I've never had a 9 to 5. I've never made a pound. Well, actually, the end of my degree course in university, we had a end of year degree show in the Trumanbury, and I was working on the Trafalgar Square Lions, and I had 3 large run of lions. Each were selling for £250, £300, and £150. I sold one of the lions for £150. And for me, that was like 150 grand. It was mind blowing for me. But I've never earned. So this dream of acquiring £100,000, how realistic was that? Woke up, I got a sheet of paper, and I ended up writing down this, I guess, mantra or a lullaby, which I said every morning and every night. September 12, 2012. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yep.
So I said, I intend to acquire 100 grand, £100,000 by May 5th, 2013. So bear in mind, I had 9 months to acquire 100 grand. Really, Kelvin?
Like the vagueness of acquire as
You
well.
know?
It's like, am I winning it?
Really?
Finding it? Oh.
Really? I intend to acquire 100 grand, £100,000 by May 5th, 2013. I intend to give my talents freely, inspiring and encouraging others in return for the money, helping my family and loved ones through physical, financial, and emotional difficulties. My plan is to build my portfolio, to have my artwork sold and invested in prestigious galleries, exhibitions in the UK and overseas, winning awards, have my works commissioned. I said that the first thing in the morning breath when I say it out loud, and the last thing at night before I retire. I said that every single day. That month of September, I entered the Fred Noodle Prize. I got accepted.
I was here at the Mal Gallery.
At the Mal Galleries. This is where it all started. A couple of months after that, I was in Chichester, the National Open Art Competition, where I won my first award. It was a £2,500 award, and I drew my friend Adam, and that got accepted, and the public had voted that work to win an award. So then I had another sheet of paper called Road to £100,000. So I would write down every penny I was making. It was like £97,500 left.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Long story short, January 2013, I found myself, I won, this was now my third award in Cork Street, Mayfair. And my university had contacted me in December 2012 and asked, as an alumni from the university, because this is the same person that was like, Kelvin, the website where people were slandering me, they called up the university to ask whether I really went there. So 2 years later, they were like, Kelvin, is everything okay? Like, we can see that you're on this ride, you've won awards, hopefully no one's hating or bothering you now. They asked to do a press release call with me over the phone, just as an alumni, what it's like to, I guess, some of the successes I was having after university. 2 days after that phone call, this was in January now, I won an award in Cork Street, Mayfair, another £2,500 award, so like £95,500 left. So the university asked if they can film me whilst receiving that award. So they filmed me in a gallery, and then that number 2 as well. 2 days after that, the BBC got in touch and asked if they can interview me. And coincidentally, I don't believe in coincidences, I went to the university, went back to the university to give a masterclass, and they asked if they can film me whilst giving that masterclass. So that filming happened, and they interviewed me, went out in BBC London News the 28th of January, and it just went viral at the time. And I became an artist in the Arts and Society. But the long story short, May 4th, 2013, I'd acquired £87,000. And bear in mind, every single day I was crying, I was emotional, I was over the moon, because I could not believe what was happening. Like this goal that I set was actually materializing in physical form. May 5th, 2013, got a call from my manager at the time, Catherine Roberts. We had, I was on the art website called Rise Art. This is an incredible, this website I hold very dear because it was the only website that I was on that I didn't really get negativity, and they were really positive, they were really embracive of my art there, and I could connect with the administration team. I sold 7 drawings with them. So exactly on the May 5th, there was an inquiry for 7 drawings. I met with the collector in Primrose Hill, and I had acquired £107,000.
Nice.
Wow.
On May 5th, 2013, the goal that I set for myself. So so when I think about this whole journey as an artist, you hear the term struggling artist. A lot of the times the struggle is there isn't a direction, there's no goal that you're working towards. Like if I told everyone in this room right now to look for the color pink, you know, they're gonna look directly at you. You know, in that moment that you're looking for the color pink, everything shuts off and it's only the goal to find that color pink. And that's how powerful goal setting is, or how it was for me, where I was at a place, September 12, 2012, I was heartbroken, there was no money, there was like, my dad and parents were like, get a job, get a normal job, Kelvin. There was all these pressures, but having that goal kind of gave me purpose, it gave me direction, and it materialized in physical form. And I'm here 12 years later, sharing what was the most surreal moment in my life of how life changed and put me in a space where I could do this thing that I love for a living.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
all
thanks
that.
for sharing that story.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. It's got me motivated. It's almost like a mini TED talk.
I know. I'm like, what goals am I going to set when I get home? I mean,
Too intense.
Yeah, and do you want to? I'll start.
no, please go ahead.
I have to clear my voice now. I'm losing it at the end. So
all
the
captivated.
podcast is called The Good, The Bad and The Arty. So we always end, before we go to Q&A, by asking the question, what is the good of what you do? And there's a lot of that. And what is the bad of what you do? That's always a difficult question, because you're such a positive person.
Yeah.
Try to be. Let's go with the bad first. The bad of what it is that I do. Jeez, man, what is the bad really? So this is me now, because there was a lot of bad back then. I mean, there's always the bad is. Gosh, I hate it. Well, in the art world, or in the world in general, there is, you know, for people that are aspiring to be artists or creatives, there's gatekeepers, you know, and I could say this honestly, because the kind of journey that I have as an artist isn't the norm. I went from drawing in my bedroom, receiving criticism online, to a couple of years after being represented by Mayfair Gallery. It's not the normal trajectory as an artist.
No.
So, you know, I've probably come across delusional when I'm talking about these goals setting, but it's worked for me, and that's my reality. The bad is there are gatekeepers where it shouldn't really have to be like that. Like, I do understand that a lot of these people that are in positions that could really bring an artist or bring a creative or bring a talent to a place where they're recognized, they would rather that person goes through, they would rather wait until that person has, I think the term they use nowadays is clout. They have recognition so they can work off the back of that.
Yeah.
So I've never really experienced gatekeepers, and that's kind of because the journey that I had, when I became an artist in the Artist Society in 2013, I was already in a position where there was a lot of demand for me and with me, where my works were very highly sought after, people wanted to represent me. So I never really had to kind of get my way, kind of inquire to have my works in particular spaces. It kind of was presented to me. But being in a position where I'm where I can see that there's people that are in a position that can bring people through. The bad is, there's a lot of gatekeeping.
I completely get what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a hierarchy, isn't there?
The hierarchies, yes. And I guess...
It's a good one.
I don't know, does that have to be a bad thing? Because the good in that bad, there has to be good, I have to go to the good. The good within that bad is that it builds, I think the adversities or the blockages and the obstacles that we go through in life builds character, it builds wisdom. So we have to kind of go through it, and we end up being a lot better off if we were silver spoon-fed, So there is positives within things being blocked.
You're so positive, I can't wait to hear you're good. How are you going to choose one?
So that will probably be the bad. It's like there's lots of blockages, which is why I think a lot of artists get the frustration of having their works recognized or seen, But the good probably is what I just said. Yeah, the good of that is knowing that if you have a clear goal, you have your ideas, which it's so important to protect your ideas as a creative, as an artist. Protect your ideas or protect your work because it gets used. So you might present your work to someone, let's say a gallery or curator or just whoever or whatever. They may reject you, but then use your ideas. So if you haven't copywritten your stuff, if you haven't protected yourself, protect yourself. The good, sorry, so long-winded. The good in this journey for me is, or the good in art, or the good in my journey?
In what you do.
The good in what I do is just being able to just sit down with my hairy self and just draw all day long. I guess just the luxury of being able to just do what I love, truly, and without any filter, without having to impress anyone. That the thing that happened in 2010 where I was slandered, it was the greatest blessing in disguise because it showed me to not seek validation from people. In this day and age, the young ones right now that are just, coming into social media, they didn't know life before social media. So they live on social media where they seek validation constantly. So that's why depression is so high, anxiety is so high. Because they're just seeking validation from something that's not even really real, So the good is just being able to do what I love and share it with others.
That's a fantastic one. I love that one. Gosh, thank you so much, Kelvin, for chatting with us today. You've been such a delight. Before we open it up to everyone to ask questions if they have any, thank you for your time today, talking to us. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. Any questions? Just raise your hand if you have one. Oh, someone's gonna be brave. Be the first one. Oh. My brother will ask the first question.
Thank you. Amazing story. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You mentioned about working with schools, and obviously science, technology, engineering, mathematics seem to take priority at the moment. And I just be interested, if you had the opportunity to change the education sector, what would you suggest for the arts?
So, and I love that question. So gratefully right now, the science, technology, the engineering, what's the acronym for it?
STEM.
So STEM is actually STEAM now. So art is in there now. And I'm grateful to say that this is something I've been pushing for a long while. So with each school that I'm going into, speaking to the British Arts Council, trying to push art to be seen as just as valid and as important as the other academic subjects, because in school you have children who are very fidgety, who just can't sit still. Those are ones that need to express themselves, and there's students who aren't academically inclined, so they're more right-brained, they're more creative, imaginative, expressive, when other students who are more logical, it's a lot more easy for them to get on with the subjects. But art is, I feel, and this is probably me being biased, but I think it's I truly do feel like it supersedes all other forms of education because it's expression, and as human beings, we express, and it's important for us to express, whether it's verbal, whether it's tangible, whether it's physical. That expression is it's so important, and that's where ideas, healing, innovation comes through. So art is super important, and I'm grateful to say that it's now slowly being seen as important as the science, technology, engineering. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Oh, we have more people have questions now, suddenly.
Someone has to break the ice, and I'm grateful.
Appreciate it. Yeah, what was your question? Do you want a mic or should I? I'm going to. Gotcha.
My question is, do you ever feel like you want your style to evolve and you want to experiment into something a little bit different, but you feel like you have to be brought back to what you're known for, both commercially and what you, I suppose, have always done? Are you always kind of battling that, or actually do you just love your style and haven't ever felt that way?
Yeah, I love that question. I just love what it is that I do. So, because in university, the one thing, as much as I love university, I'm sorry I have to say this, but I was really pushed and forced to come out of my comfort zone and to be more to experiment more, and and I did do that. So I love oils, I can sculpt, I love abstract, I love all these different mediums, but as an artist, and I believe we're all artists, as an artist, we all have a unique way of expressing ourselves. My sisters are twins. Even though they're twins, they're 3 minutes apart, they're identical, they still dress the same, they look the same, there's still a difference that separates them. There's something unique about them, the way they express themselves. And I think as an artist, the word evolving or being experimentative, is that a word? Experimenting, yes, I do believe it's good to push. It's important to push yourself to see how far you can go and to dabble into other mediums. But if you found a form of expression that truly gives you peace, clarity, you're able to truly voice what it is you're trying to say clearly without resistance, then I don't think you have to or you need to remove yourself from that. I think it should be a voluntary thing. So a period of time you might want to dabble into painting, and that's completely fine. But I think as a creative, if you found your niche or if you found your form of expression that is effortless, I think it's important that you stick with that. Because I guess success in this reality that we live in, they kind of look for someone that has a niche, has something that's unique about them. And it's usually people who have stuck with that one thing and mastered it and just been able to see it through all angles, which is what's given them that success, When I do admire people who are, is it jack of all trades? Master? Yeah. So I've always struggled with doing multiple things at once because I'm very obsessive when it comes to, if there's something I love to do, I'm not just gonna do it, I have to master it. Everything, I just can't help it. When I was 19, I got myself clippers, I had to cut my own hair. So it's just, I have to do it myself, I have to master it, So yeah, to answer the question, I do believe in evolution, but I'm very happy with where I am right now. If there's anything that's gonna inspire the change, it's gonna happen in that moment in an organic way. It's not something that I'm thinking about, it's just gonna happen. But for right now, this is my form of expression, yeah. Hope that answered the question. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Great question and great answer. I think we've got a few more at the back, haven't we, Anna? Oh. Yeah.
Over to you, right in front of the camera, sorry.
Hi, wonderful talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was thinking, when you were going into schools, did you actually do art workshops with the students, or was it more talking workshops, masterclasses?
Yes to all of that. So the school visits, yes, I give talks and I also give workshops. That is very, very important for me, the workshop especially. So I give workshops with the children, teach them my techniques. You know, the interesting thing is when I tell them how long each drawing takes, they're like, what, I can't sit down for that long. But then when they actually start drawing, the teachers have to like pull them away for lunchtime. They don't want lunch. They just want to draw. They don't want to play, they just want to draw. So yeah, I just love that. It's so amazing seeing how enthusiastic children are with art. So yes, I do workshops and I also do have an online drawing course as well. This is something that I launched during the lockdown period, that period that I think is just not real. So 2020, the height of the lockdown, I saw that people were really delving into the arts and craft. They were at home and they were dabbling into their creativity. And I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity to give online workshops, online tutorials. This is something that I've been asked for my whole career. Since 2013, can we see your techniques? Can we see how you do it? So yes, 2020, I launched an online drawing course where there's over 30 hours where people can delve in and learn from me. Yeah, and I get a bit philosophical on there as well. Can't help it.
Did you ever suffer from self-doubt?
Self-doubt, so...
And how did you address it?
Oh, self-doubt... gosh, I want to say yes, but I don't know. So the self-doubt in terms of my art, in terms of creativity or as a person?
No, just about like your path. Did you ever have a competing sort of B plan?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, so I really love that question because my answer was ignorance was bliss for me. So what I mean by ignorance being bliss was I grew up in Tottenham, North London, and in the environment that I kind of grew up in there wasn't much, no one would ever imagine that I would be birthed out of that, you know. It was just, there was no blueprint, there was nothing to encourage this where I grew up. Ignorance was bliss was, with what I loved about Tottenham was and still is very multicultural. So I never saw race, you know, and as ignorant as I probably was, it was bliss for me because I didn't see any blockages. It was only when I got older, after secondary school, outside of secondary school, some of the peers that I was with that knew that I was drawing, knew what I loved to do and how I wanted to share it. They were like, Kelvin, the art world is a predominantly elitist world. It's Caucasian dominated. When there's none of our kind there, are you gonna succeed? So the doubt was coming from outside, but I blocked it. You know, I just couldn't see it. It was when I had my debut solo exhibition 2014, where people from where I grew up came into the gallery and were like, wow, I didn't even realize we were allowed in these kind of spaces. And for me, I never saw that because I was just ignorant to it. I believed that anything was possible and viable for me. So ignorance was really, really bliss for me. So the self-doubt probably happened a lot later in life when I'm hearing people's stories and I'm seeing that there are, you know, without me being ignorant, taking my rose-tinted glasses off, there are actually genuinely people that are going through a lot of resistances just based on their background. But for me, it was I just didn't see that. And I think that's what enabled me to have a fearlessness. It enabled me to set really unrealistic goals, like 100 grand. Who the hell did I think I was? But I did it, you know, and I acquired it. So yeah, the self-doubt happened a lot later in life, but I guess gratefully, knowing what my core is and always going into neutral, I'm able to kind of eradicate and subside that self-doubt.
Fantastic.
That answers that question.
I think we've got time for just one more question. I saw two people's hands up. I don't want to choose. You choose.
Two people.
One more question.
There's three actually.
Oh, three more questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ezra?
Yeah. Thank you.
How are we doing for time?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's welcome.
It's been fantastic listening to you. And my question to you is that it looks like you're very deep. You're a very deep person and very philosophical. How have you kept yourself going, and how do you get yourself grounded? What are the things that would, you say has helped you to lead a balanced life?
Thank you very much for that question. Those very, very kind words. The depth is, so I'm a bit of a country bumpkin. I love nature. I love nature. I always go out for walks in nature, greenery. Green is a color that doesn't arouse thoughts. Did you guys know that? Like green is a color that you could look at and it doesn't really evoke much emotion, like blue being solemn and mellow, and red being, enticing. You have, all these fast food companies that have KFC, McDonald's is red. Red is root chakra. It attracts hunger, lust. Green is a color that's very neutral. So I find myself being in nature a lot, which just helps me. It grounds me. And this, honestly, I think drawing it's meditative. It's there's a lot of breath work that happens there, especially this kind of genre of drawing where it's very meticulous. You're finding you have to hold your breath a lot when you're doing very careful lines. So that level of awareness of your breathing it keeps you grounded naturally. I think it just happens organically. So yeah, I think drawing, if that just sounds so cliche, but the drawing for me and nature, it's huge for me. Yeah.
Right. So we need to wrap up.
Yeah, I think we have to.
I think what we'll say is that we're all going to stick around for a bit longer. So if you have questions for Kelvin, you didn't get a chance to ask them, please come up and speak to the man himself. And
I have one more thing now.
one more thing.
No, you go first and then I'll say my thing.
And obviously I'd say please stick around and have a look at the exhibition. There's a bit more time before we close up. And
my last thing is everyone's got their phones. Can everyone get their phones out for me just quickly?
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Now, if you have an Apple phone or an iPhone, why an Apple phone? I'm not. God. If you have an iPhone, please click on your little podcast app if you have it and subscribe to the podcast, The Good, The Bad and The Arty. Give us a follow, give us a 5-star review when you get home, or if you have Android, then Spotify works amazingly well. So do follow, do tell your friends about the podcast. This episode will be out in a couple of weeks, we think. But thank you so much for joining us. And can we give a round of applause to Kelvin? Thank you. Amazing. Thank you for being here.